The US Navy is hit by another incident after it lost 2 aerial platforms on Sunday. The helicopter and a Super Hornet fighter jet were lost from the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier in just a span of 30 minutes, reportedly. The 2 separate accidents occurred when the carrier group was conducting routine operations in the South China Sea while deployed in the South China Sea. The US Pacific Fleet, in a statement, informed that at about 2:45 p.m. local time, a US Navy Hawk helicopter went down from the carrier, prompting an emergency response, and all 3 crew members were safely rescued. The statement further read that at about 3:15 p.m. after the first incident, the Super Hornet fighter jet assigned to the Fighting Redcocks of Strike Fighter Squadron 22 also went down. The crash led to the ejection of both pilots from the aircraft, who were later rescued. The US Navy added that all 5 personnel involved in the incident are in safe and stable condition. While the cause of both incidents is under investigation, both crashes ended without loss of life, and they come at a time when the Navy is already contending with a string of aviation mishaps. In December 2024, the guided missile cruiser USS Gettysburg mistakenly shot down a jet from the Truman in a friendly fire incident. The pilots of the 2-seater fighter were able to eject safely, with 1 pilot sustaining minor injuries. The following April, another fighter jet slipped off the Truman's hangar deck and plunged into the Red Sea. While no personnel were lost, 1 sailor sustained minor injuries. The Harry S. Truman was deployed in West Asia, defending commercial shipping lanes. Reports indicated that the aircraft carrier made a hard turn to evade Houthi fire, which contributed to the fighter jet falling overboard, resulting in the loss of $60 million jet. The USS Nimitz, one of US Navy's most famous aircraft carriers, is currently on the return leg of what is set to be its final deployment before decommissioning. The Nimitz aircraft carrier had left the harbor on March 26 this year, and its accompanying ships spent much of their time operating in West Asia. The deployment was part of the U.S. response to repel attacks by Yemen's Houthi rebels on commercial shipping. The European Union purchased half of Russia's total LNG exports from February to September 2025, remaining Moscow's largest energy buyer despite ongoing sanctions. In fact, data from the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air showing China accounted for 22%, Japan for 18%. Of Russia's LNG exports during the same period. The EU also continued to buy 35% of Russia's pipeline gas ahead of China and Turkey. Among European nations, Hungary and Slovakia led the purchases, followed by France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Even with plans to phase out Russian energy, Europe remains the single biggest financier of Moscow's gas revenues. Amid Europe's continued gas imports, US President Donald Trump has escalated sanctions pressure targeting Russia's largest oil companies. The move aims to cut off the Kremlin's key revenue source and restrict global buyers' access to dollar-based transactions. Within hours, global oil prices rose 6%. They rose 6%. And reports surfaced of paused Russian oil deliveries to major refineries in India and China. Analysts saying Trump's sanctions have had a faster and sharper impact than the recent EU measures, marking what some describe as Washington's most aggressive economic strike since the invasion started. Russia's fossil fuel revenues, meanwhile, are now half of what they were in September 2022. Pressured by falling exports to Asia and a shifting global energy map, Moscow could lose $7.4 billion in monthly revenue if exports to India and China are stopped. Meanwhile, the EU's 19th sanctions package now includes a ban on Russian LNG imports and a target to end all Russian gas purchases by January 2027. With the US now supplying 55% of Europe's LNG imports, Europe faces criticism for funding Russia's war while phasing it out slowly. Afghanistan and Pakistan have entered the third day of the high-stakes negotiations in Istanbul, seeking to stabilize the border after days of deadly clashes. Kabul is urging dialogue and understanding, while Islamabad has warned that failure could escalate into open war. Previously, a short-lived 48-hour ceasefire collapsed quickly and a second truce mediated by Qatar and Turkey followed, though its terms remain undisclosed. The ongoing Istanbul round is focused on establishing mechanisms to uphold the fragile truce and prevent renewed fighting. While the Taliban says the negotiations with Pakistan in Doha are a positive step, Pakistan has claimed that 5 of its security personnel have been killed in clashes with terrorists near the Afghan border. That's what they have said. Also claiming that 25 terrorists, including 4 suicide bombers, were killed in the clashes. One of the key points of contention is Afghanistan's demand that Pakistan hand over or expel Daesh terrorists operating from its soil. Listen to this.
According to our information, the leader of ISIS Khorasan, Shihab al-Mujahir, and his close associates, Abd al-Hakim Tawhidi, Sultan Aziz Azam, and Salah al-Din Rajab, who is the coordinator of contacts with ISIS Central and head of Maktab al-Siddiq, are present and hiding on Pakistani soil. The Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan seriously demands that these individuals be handed over to us, or that the government of Pakistan expel them from its territory. In this matter, the government of Pakistan should carry out its responsibilities and fulfill its commitments.
Islamabad, in turn, insists that Kabul take verifiable action against the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which it says uses Afghan territory to launch attacks. Islamabad also accused Kabul of harboring terrorists who target Pakistan on its soil, a claim that the Taliban rejected. Like the Taliban, which denies supporting anti-Pakistan armed groups operating from Afghan soil, Islamabad also has rejected any connection with the recent attackers along borders with India and especially Kashmir. But just as Pakistan has long accused the Taliban of harboring militants who strike inside its borders, India, remember, has been saying, and for the world to see, that Pakistan supports and sponsors terror groups. The conflict has hit Pakistan hard previously. Taliban spokesman, remember, in a post on social media made it clear that it was at the request and insistence of the Pakistani side that a ceasefire has been implemented between the two countries. Senior Taliban official claimed that Pakistan reached out to Qatar and Saudi Arabia to help broker peace. That move exposes just how nervous Islamabad really has become, perhaps afraid of an Afghan backlash that it cannot control anymore. Far from being a force that can be underestimated, the Taliban has demonstrated it is not a power to be messed with. While Pakistan has learned the hard lessons of dealing with Afghanistan the difficult way, China and Russia have their own stakes in Afghanistan. Moscow has in fact announced plans to use Afghanistan as a transit hub for gas heading to Southeast Asia. And Russia has recognized the Taliban regime, calling it a strategic ally in fighting ISIS Khorasan. Turkmenistan's paramount leader also hailed improving bilateral ties with the Taliban government in Kabul during his visit to Kabul to take stock of the project, the TAPI project. He insisted that the gas pipeline project via Afghanistan will have a positive impact on the social and economic development. As the Istanbul negotiations continue, the world watching closely, the outcome could determine whether the fragile truce holds or whether the Afghanistan-Pakistan border leads to a wider confrontation. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.